Welcome to the Empowering Story Podcast. This is a space where healing is allowed to take its own shape. Nothing here is rushed. Nothing is measured. We listen to what's already present and to what might be ready to move in its own time. In this talk, Jean Dorf explores a question that sits at the heart of trauma recovery: whether the words we use to describe ourselves after trauma actually help us heal, or quietly ask our bodies to perform. Drawing from somatic work, lived experience, and years of working with survivors, Jean offers a developmental perspective on language, identity, and nervous system readiness. This is not about choosing the right label, but about listening to what the body needs in order to move forward.
Does calling yourself a victim help or hurt? I want to start with a simple statement that often makes people uncomfortable. The language we use after trauma is not neutral. Words like victim, survivor, or patient don't just describe experience. They interact directly with the nervous system. This presentation is not about choosing the right label. It's about understanding when certain language stabilizes the body and when it quietly starts to demand effort instead of supporting healing. What I'm offering here comes from years of working somatically with survivors and from my own lived experience. This is a developmental lens, not a moral one. Let me introduce you to a pattern I see often. I once worked with a woman who identified as a survivor from the very first session. Her voice was steady. Her posture was upright. Her story was coherent and strong. On the surface, this looked like resilience, but somatically, her breath stayed high in her chest. Her jaw held tension. Her spine behaved like a rod that refused to bend. Her strength was real, but it was being held in place. This is the paradox. Sometimes what looks like resilience is actually containment through effort. In trauma recovery, words don't just describe experience, they organize it. Language acts as a regulatory cue to the nervous system. It tells the body whether reality is being acknowledged or bypassed. When language skips over injury, the body compensates. Breath becomes shallow. The chest lifts. There's a subtle forward push. The physiology of proving you're okay rather than being okay. This isn't psychological weakness, it's biological intelligence. Something very different happens when a person in early healing is allowed to say, "I was a victim," without apologizing or rushing past it. Shoulders often drop, the breath deepens, and coherence returns, not because the story changed, but because the truth was finally named without distortion. I often say this: the body moves forward when it feels believed, not empowered, not reframed, believed. When survivor language is adopted too early, it often functions as a performance. Authentic resilience has softness. The body can yield. Strength expands capacity. Performative strength is effortful. The chest stays lifted. Speech is controlled. There's exhaustion after social interaction. A simple check-in is this: if you feel the need to rush your explanation so others don't worry, that's not integration. That's urgency. It's important to say this clearly: the science is not the problem. Researchers like Judith Herman, Bessel van der Kolk, and Peter Levine emphasize bearing witness, somatic timing, and phase-sensitive healing. What creates pressure is culture, not theory. Pop psychology and well-meaning helpers often rush empowerment to relieve their own discomfort with pain. We rush not to help the survivor, but to escape helplessness. Here's a crucial reframe. Moving back and forth between feeling like a victim and a survivor is not confusion. It's maturation. The nervous system is renegotiating identity. The old language no longer fully organizes experience, but the new orientation hasn't stabilized yet. Oscillation is not a decision problem. It's a coherence process happening underneath conscious thought. If you're in this middle phase, you may notice mixed signals: moments of softness followed by sudden bracing, clarity followed by doubt. The practice here is not resolution. It's staying. If your body expands one moment and contracts the next, don't panic. This is your nervous system testing capacity, not failing. So who decides which language is empowering? Early in healing, external authority, therapists, frameworks, can provide containment. but over time, authority must migrate back inward. The role of support is not to decide which word is good, but to help someone sense when a word supports regulation versus when it demands adaptation. True empowerment emerges when language follows capacity, not ideology. You don't decide to stop being a victim. Your body outgrows the word. Readiness shows up as deep, spontaneous exhales, curiosity about the future, and a lack of urgency to be believed. Growth often announces itself through absence. The absence of tension, the absence of the need to prove. The destination is not a new static identity. The destination is fluidity. Victim describes a historical event. Survivor names endurance. Patient marks a phase of care. When coherence is restored, words become tools, not cages. Unacknowledged victimhood is far more likely to calcify than acknowledged harm. Skipping the victim phase doesn't eliminate it. It sends the protest underground, and the cost is paid later as exhaustion. Sometimes the most empowering thing we can do is name what was true then, so we can discover what is true now.
What you've just heard invites a different kind of healing conversation, one that values pacing over pressure and coherence over performance. Jean's work reminds us that transformation doesn't happen through force or breakthrough, but through conditions that allow the body to feel believed. Thank you for listening to the Empowering Story podcast. This space will be here when you return.
I am Jean Dorf, and I want to thank you for being here. It's an honor to share this space with you. Until next time.